You ever notice how quickly the mind turns against you the moment something doesn't go right? The moment you stumble, the moment you fall short, the moment life doesn't match the picture you had in your head, that voice shows up, quiet at first, then louder, then convincing. It tells you something must be wrong with you. It tells you you're not built for this. It tells you maybe you're just broken. And if you hear that long enough, you start to believe it. But let me challenge that for a second. What if the problem isn't you? It's the way you've been taught to interpret struggle. See, from a young age, most people are conditioned to associate ease with success and difficulty with failure. If it's smooth, you're doing it right. If it's hard, you must be doing something wrong. That idea gets planted deep, and before you know it, every obstacle feels like a verdict on your worth. You don't get the job, you think you're not good enough. You fail once, you think you're incapable. You face resistance, you think you're not meant for it, but life doesn't work like that. Struggle is not a sign that you're broken. It's a sign that you're stretching beyond who you used to be. Think about it. Every time you try something new, it feels uncomfortable. Every time you step into unfamiliar territory, it feels uncertain. That doesn't mean you're failing, that means you're growing. But growth doesn't feel like progress in the moment. It feels like confusion. It feels like pressure. It feels like things are falling apart because the old version of you can't survive at the next level. And that's where most people quit. They misread the moment. They think the discomfort is a warning sign, when in reality, it's an invitation to rise, to adapt, to become more. You've got to understand this. There's a difference between being broken and being in transition. Being broken means there's nothing left to build on, but that's not you. You're still here. You're still fighting. You're still fighting. You're still searching for something better. That's not broken. That's becoming. But becoming doesn't come with applause. It doesn't come with instant clarity. Most of the time, it comes with doubt. It comes with questions. It comes with moments where you sit there and wonder if you're even moving in the right direction. And that's the test, because anyone can move forward when it's easy. Anyone can believe in themselves when things are going their way. But can you keep going when it's unclear? Can you keep pushing when the results aren't showing yet? Can you silence that voice that says you can't and replace it with watch me? That's where strength is built, not in comfort, not in certainty, but in the moments where everything inside you wants to quit and you decide to take one more step anyway. See, the illusion of being broken comes from focusing too much on where you are instead of recognizing where you're headed. You're judging yourself in the middle of the process. That's like looking at a building while it's still under construction and calling it a failure because it's not finished yet. You don't see the blueprint. You don't see the vision. You only see the mess. But the mess is part of the masterpiece. Every setback you've faced, every moment you've doubted yourself, every time things didn't work out the way you planned, it's all shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, more resilient. You just can't see it yet. And that's why you've got to trust something deeper than your current emotions, because your feelings will lie to you when you're in the middle of the storm. They'll tell you it's over when it's really just beginning. So the next time that voice shows up, the one that tells you you're broken, I want you to pause. I want you to question it. I want you to remind yourself that discomfort is not destruction. Struggle is not failure. And this moment right here, it's not the end of your story, it's the turning point, because you're not falling apart. You're shedding everything that can't go with you to the next level. Let me tell you something most people don't want to hear. Pain is not your enemy. It never was. It never will be. The real danger is misunderstanding it, because the moment pain shows up in your life, your first instinct is to push it away, to numb it, to escape it, to ask, why is this happening to me? Like it's some kind of punishment. like life singled you out and decided to make things harder for you. But what if that's not the truth? What if pain isn't here to break you, but to teach you something you wouldn't learn any other way? See, comfort has never been a great teacher. When everything is going well, you don't question much. You don't grow much. You stay where you are because there's no reason to move. But pain forces movement. It forces reflection. It forces you to confront parts of yourself you've been avoiding. That failure you went through, it showed you where you need discipline. That rejection you faced, it revealed your worth was never tied to someone else's approval. That moment, everything fell apart. It taught you how to stand on your own. Now, it didn't feel like a lesson at the time, did it? It felt like loss. It felt like confusion. It felt like everything you worked for was slipping through your hands. But look at you now. You're still standing, and not just standing, you're thinking differently. You're seeing things differently. You're stronger in ways you didn't even realize while you were going through it. That's what pain does. It reshapes you, but only if you're willing to listen, because pain speaks. Not in words, but in experiences. It shows you what needs to change. It exposes what's been holding you back. It reveals the gaps between who you are and who you need to become. The problem is, most people are too busy running from the pain to hear the message. They distract themselves. They blame others. They avoid responsibility, and in doing that, they miss the very lesson that could transform their life. You've got to be different. You've got to be the one who stands in the middle of the storm and says, what is this trying to teach me? Not why me, but what now? Because every painful moment carries a question, and your growth depends on how you answer it. When life knocks you down, you can either stay there and feel sorry for yourself, or you can rise up and say, there's something here I need to understand. That shift right there, that's power. That's how you turn pain into progress. And let's be real, nobody signs up for pain. Nobody wakes up and says, I hope today challenges me to my core. But the people who become something great, the people who build unshakable strength, they don't waste their pain. They use it. They take every setback, every disappointment, every moment of struggle, and they turn it into fuel. Fuel to push harder, fuel to think smarter, fuel to grow beyond the limits they once believed in. You see, pain leaves clues. It shows you where you've been settling. It shows you where you've been playing small. It shows you where you've been depending on things that were never meant to carry your future. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. That's when change begins. That's when you stop repeating the same cycles and start creating a new path. But understand this, learning from pain requires courage. It's not easy to face your flaws. It's not easy to admit where you went wrong. It's not easy to accept that growth requires letting go of old habits, old mindsets, sometimes even old relationships. But that's the price of becoming stronger. And you've already paid part of that price just by going through what you've been through. So don't waste it. Don't go through all that pain and come out the same person. Don't carry the weight without gaining the wisdom. Because pain without growth, that's suffering. But pain with purpose, that's transformation. And you're not here to suffer endlessly. You're here to evolve. So the next time life hits you hard, and it will, don't just react, pause, look deeper, ask yourself, what is this moment tree? Ask yourself, what is this moment tree? Yang to teach me that comfort never could, because the lesson is there. It's always there. And once you start seeing pain as a teacher instead of a punishment, everything changes. Your mindset changes. Your actions change. Your future changes. Let's talk about pressure, because most people run from it, avoid it, try to escape it any chance they get. The moment life starts to feel heavy, the moment expectations rise, the moment the weight gets real, that's when people start looking for the nearest exit. But pressure Pressure is not your enemy. Pressure is the place where transformation happens. You don't become stronger in comfort. You don't discover who you are when everything is easy. You find out what you're made of when life tightens the grip, when the heat turns up, when there's no room left for excuses. That's the fire, and you've been in it. You've had moments where everything felt like too much, where the responsibilities stacked up, the doubts got louder, and the path ahead looked uncertain. Moments where you questioned whether you had what it takes. But you're still here, and that right there means something, because pressure doesn't just test you, it reveals you. It reveals your habits. It reveals your mindset. It reveals whether you break under stress or rise through it. And understand this, nobody escapes the fire. Everyone who becomes something great, something unshakable, has to go through it. There is no shortcut. Think about anything powerful in this world. It's been through a process. It's been shaped, refined, tested. And that process is never comfortable. It stretches you, it challenges you, it forces you to let go of the version of yourself that can't survive at the next level. That's why it feels like you're being pulled apart sometimes, because the old you and the new you can exist in the same space. So something has to give, and most people, they give up. They step out of the fire too early, they walk away right before the breakthrough, they feel the heat and mistake it for destruction, not realizing it's actually construction. But not you. You've got to see it differently. Every challenge you're facing right now, it's not random, it's not pointless. It's preparing you for something you can't handle yet as you are today. That's why the pressure is necessary, because without it, you'd stay the same. Without it, you'd never tap into the strength that's buried inside you. Without it, you'd never grow beyond your limits. And let me tell you something, you have more in you than you've ever used. But it doesn't come out when things are easy. It comes out when you're pushed, when you're stretched, when you're forced to dig deeper than you ever have before. That's when you discover resilience. That's when you find discipline. That's when you realize you can handle more than you thought possible. And yeah, it's uncomfortable. There are nights where it feels like too much. There are days where the weight feels unbearable. There are moments where quitting seems like the only option that makes sense. But those are the moments that matter most, because every time you choose to keep going, every time you refuse to break, every time you stand tall when it would be easier to fall apart, you're building something inside yourself that can't be taken away. You're becoming stronger, not in theory, not in words, but in reality. Strength isn't something you talk about, it's something you earn. And you earn it in the fire. You earn it when you keep showing up despite the pressure, when you stay focused despite the distractions, when you hold your ground despite the fear. That's how you're forged. And one day, you're going to look back at these moments, the hard ones, the painful ones, the doesn't come from perfection, and you're going to realize they were the most important moments of your life because they didn't break you. They built you. They shaped you into someone who can handle more, do more, be more, someone who doesn't fold under pressure, but rises because of it, and that's the shift you need to make. Stop asking, why is this so hard? Start asking, what is this making me? Because the fire isn't there to destroy you. It's there to refine you, to burn away the doubt, to strip away the weakness, to leave behind something stronger, sharper, unshakable, but only if you stay in it. Only if you don't run, only if you trust that what you're going through right now is shaping you into who you are meant to become. So when the pressure hits, when the heat rises, when everything in you wants to step back and play it safe, step forward, stand in it, grow through it. Let me slow this down for a moment, because this right here, this is where a lot of people lose themselves. Comparison. It's quiet, it's subtle, but it's powerful enough to steal your confidence without you even realizing it. You could be making progress, you could be growing, you could be building something meaningful, and all it takes is one look at someone else's life for you to feel like you're falling behind. You scroll, you watch, you observe, and suddenly your journey doesn't feel good enough anymore. You start asking questions that were never yours to ask. Why am I not there yet? Why is it easier for them? What am I doing wrong? And just like that, you shift your focus away from your own path and place it onto someone else's timeline. That's the trap. Because you're comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. You're measuring your progress against moments you don't fully understand. You're judging your chapter 3 base on someone else's chapter 10. And that will break you if you let it. See, what you don't see is the struggle behind their success. You don't see the failures they faced, the doubts they fought through, the sacrifices they made. You're only seeing the result, not the process. And when you ignore the process, you create unrealistic expectations for yourself. You start rushing your growth. You start forcing things that aren't ready yet. You start feeling like you're not enough, not because it's true, but because you're looking in the wrong direction. Let me tell you something you need to hear. Your journey is not supposed to look like anyone else's. It can't, because your experiences are different. Your challenges are different. Your purpose is different. Your purpose is different. And most importantly, your timing is different. Some people bloom early. Some people take longer. But that doesn't make one better than the other. It just means the process is unique. You've got to respect that, because the moment you start comparing, you lose appreciation for how far you've come. Think about everything you've already made it through. Think about the growth you've already experienced. Think about the person you used to be and the person you're becoming right now. That matters. But comparison blinds you to it. It convinces you that your progress is insignificant just because it doesn't look like someone else's success. It makes you feel small when you should be standing tall. And that's dangerous, because when you feel small, you start playing small. You stop taking small. You stop playing risks. You stop believing in yourself. You start holding back. Not because you lack ability, but because you've convinced yourself you are not ready. But you are. You just need to shift your focus back where it belongs. On you, on your growth, on your journey, on your next step, not someone else's finish line. Because, here's the truth. The only person you should be comparing yourself to is who you were yesterday. Are you stronger? Are you wiser? Are you more disciplined, more focused, more aware? That's the real measure of progress. Not how fast you're moving compared to others, but how far you've come compared to your past. And once you understand that, something powerful happens. You stop chasing validation. You stop seeking approval. You stop trying to fit into someone else's version of success. And you start building your own with confidence, with clarity, with purpose, with clarity, with purpose. Because you realize that your path doesn't need to look impressive to others. It just needs to be real to you. And that's where freedom comes in. Freedom from pressure, freedom from doubt, freedom from the constant need to measure up. You move differently when you're focused on your own lane. You grow faster when you're not distracted by someone else's pace. You become stronger when your energy is invested in building, not comparing. So the next time you feel that urge, that pull to look at someone else's life and question your own, pause. Remind yourself that you don't know their full story. Remind yourself that your journey is unfolding exactly the way it needs to. And most importantly, remind yourself that you're not behind. You are on your path. Let me be real with you. Becoming stronger isn't some clean, perfect journey where everything just falls into place. It's not a straight line. It's not predictable. And it definitely doesn't look the way you imagined it would when you first started. Some days you feel unstoppable, like everything is clicking, like you've finally figured it out, like nothing can shake you. You wake up with clarity, you move with confidence, and you start believing that this is it. You've turned the corner. And then the next day hits. And suddenly, that confidence feels distant. That clarity feels blurry. That momentum you had, it feels like it disappeared overnight. And now you're questioning yourself again, wondering how you went from feeling so strong to feeling like you're back at the beginning. But you're not back at the beginning, You're in the process. And the process, it's not meant to be perfect. It's meant to transform you. See, most people get this part wrong. They think progress means constant forward movement with no setbacks. They think growth means never struggling again. So when things get hard, when they feel inconsistent, when they stumble, they assume they've failed. But that's not failure, that's reality. Growth comes in waves. It comes in cycles. It comes with ups and downs, wins and losses, clarity and confusion. And every part of that is necessary, because if it were easy, it wouldn't change you. The struggle is what builds you. The inconsistency is what tests you. The moments where you feel like giving up, those are the moments that define you, because that's when you find out if you're committed or just interested. Anybody can show up when they feel good. Anybody can stay consistent when motivation is high. But can you keep going when you don't feel like it? Can you keep pushing when the excitement fades and all that's left is discipline? That's the difference, because becoming stronger isn't about how you perform on your best days. It's about what you do on your worst days. It's about showing up when you're tired, when you're frustrated, when you're doubting yourself, when nothing seems to be working the way you want it to. That's where real growth happens. Not in the spotlight, not in the moments of victory, but in the quiet battles that nobody sees, the days you didn't quit, the moments you chose discipline over comfort, the times you kept going even when it felt like you were. Making progress, that's the process. And you've got to learn to embrace it, not just tolerate it, not just push through it, but truly accept that this is what it takes to become who you meant to be. Because once you stop fighting the process, you start flowing with it. You stop expecting perfection and start focusing on progress. You stop beating yourself up for the bad days and start learning from them. You stop waiting to feel ready and start acting anyway. And that shift changes everything. Because now your growth isn't dependent on how you feel. It's built on what you do consistently, relentlessly, with purpose. And over time, those small actions, those daily efforts, those moments where you chose not to quit, they start to add up. They start to shape you. They start to build a version of you that's stronger, more disciplined, more resilient than you ever thought possible. But it doesn't happen overnight. And that's where patience comes in. You've got to trust that what you're doing right now, even if it feels small, even if it feels slow, it's leading somewhere. Because every step matters. Every effort counts. Every time you refuse to give up, you're reinforcing the person you're becoming. So don't get discouraged when the journey feels messy. Don't lose faith when things don't go as planned. And don't you dare think that just because it's hard, it's not working. It is working. It's working on you, shaping you, strengthening you, shaping you, strengthening you, preparing you. You just have to stay in it long enough to see the results. So when those tough days come, and they will, don't step back. Lean in, keep moving. Keep building. Let me take you somewhere most people avoid going, inside your own mind, because that's where the real battle is, not out there, not in the world, not in what people say or what situations you face. The real fight, the one that decides everything, happens in the space between your thoughts. That voice in your head, you know, the one that shows up when things get hard. When you're tired, when you're uncertain, when you're standing at the edge of something uncomfortable, it starts whispering, maybe you're not ready, maybe you should wait, maybe this isn't for you. And if you're not careful, that whisper turns into a command. You start hesitating, you start doubting, you start pulling back, not because you lack ability, but because your mind convinced you to question it. That's the battlefield. And here's the truth. Most people never fully understand you are not your thoughts. Just because something crosses your mind doesn't mean it's real. Just because you feel doubt doesn't mean you're incapable. Just because fear shows up doesn't mean you should stop. But if you don't take control, your mind will take control of you. And it will always choose what's comfortable over what's necessary. It will tell you to stay where it's safe, to avoid risk, to protect yourself from failure, rejection, discomfort. It thinks it's helping you, but what it's really doing is keeping you stuck. Because everything you want, everything that will grow you, challenge you, elevate you, sits on the other side of that mental resistance. So the question becomes, who's in charge, you or your thoughts? Because if you let every negative idea dictate your actions, you'll never move forward. You'll stay trapped in cycles of hesitation, always waiting for the perfect moment, always waiting to feel ready. But that moment never comes. Confidence doesn't come before action. It comes because of action. Strength doesn't come from thinking about change. It comes from doing something despite the doubt. You've got to learn how to stand in the middle of that internal noise and choose different. Lie, when your mind says quit, you say keep going. When it says you can't, you say watch me. When it fills you with fear, you move forward anyway. That's discipline. That's control. That's power. And it's not about silencing the voice completely, because it's always going to be there. The doubt, the fear, the hesitation, they don't disappear just because you want them to. But you can change your response to them. You can stop giving them authority. You can hear the doubt and still take action. You can feel the fear and still step forward. You can acknowledge the uncertainty and still commit to the path. That's how you win the battle, not by waiting for your mind to become perfect, but by acting in spite of its imperfections. And every time you do that, every time you override that negative voice, you get stronger, not physically, mentally. You build resilience, you build confidence. You build a mindset that doesn't crumble under pressure, but rises through it. Because now you're not reacting, you're choosing. You're choosing growth over comfort. You're choosing action over fear. You're choosing belief over doubt, and that changes everything. Because once you take control of your mind, you take control of your life. No more waiting, no more excuses. No more letting temporary emotions dictate permanent decisions. You move with intention. You act with purpose. You become unstoppable, not because life gets easier, but because you get stronger inside. And understand this, the mind is like a muscle. If you don't train it, it weakens. If you don't challenge it, it weakens. If you don't control it, it controls you. But if you work on it, if you push it, if you discipline it, it becomes your greatest asset. It becomes the thing that drives you forward instead of holding you back. So don't underestimate what's happening inside you, because that's where everything begins. Your success starts in your thoughts. Your failure starts there too. Your growth, your confidence, your strength. It all begins in the way you think and the choices you make in response to those thoughts. So the next time that voice shows up, the next time doubt tries to take the lead, pause, recognize it for what it is, and then make a decision, not based on fear, not based on comfort, but based on who you're trying to become. Because at the end of the day, the battle isn't out there. It's within you. Let me remind you of something you might have forgotten. Your story didn't start with strength. It started with struggle. Every scar you carry, every setback you have set back, you faced every moment that made you question yourself. It all left a mark. And for a long time, you probably looked at those marks as proof that life had been hard on you, maybe even unfair. But what if those marks aren't signs of weakness? And what if they're evidence of survival? Because you didn't just go through those moments, you made it through them, and that changes everything. See, most people try to hide their struggles. They bury them, ignore them, pretend they didn't happen. They think strength is about appearing perfect, about showing the world that nothing can touch them. But real strength comes from what you've overcome. It comes from the nights nobody saw when you had to fight your own thoughts just to make it to the next day. It comes from the moments when everything felt like it was falling apart and you still found a way to stand. That's not weakness, that's power. But here's where it gets deeper. Your struggles aren't just something you survived, they're something you can use. Every challenge you faced taught you something, whether you realized it at the time or not. It taught you patience when things didn't happen fast enough. It taught you resilience when things didn't go your way. It taught you awareness when you had to learn from your own mistakes. Those lessons, they didn't come easy. They came through experience. And experience is something nobody can take from you. That's why your struggles matter, because they've given you tools, they've given you perspective, they've given you strength that someone who's never been tested simply doesn't have. But the key is you've got to stop seeing your past as something that holds you back. It doesn't. It pushes you forward if you let it. Because everything you've been through has prepared you for where you're going. You just have to connect the dots. You got to look at your life and say, what did this teach me? Instead of, why did this happen to me? That shift right there, that's where transformation begins. Because now you're not a victim of your circumstances. You're a product of your growth. You start to see that the pain had purpose, that the setbacks had meaning, that the struggles were shaping you into someone who can handle more, do more, be more. And once you understand that, you stop running from your story. You own it, you stand in it, you use it, because your story is not something to be ashamed of, it's something to build from. It's your foundation. Everything you've been through has added a layer to who you are today. And those layers, they make you stronger, not weaker. They give you depth, they give you character. They give you the kind of strength that doesn't break under pressure. And one day, everything you've learned, everything you've endured, everything you've grown through, it's going to serve a purpose bigger than you, because someone out there is going through what you've already overcome. Someone out there feels lost, feels broken, feels like they can't go on. And your story, your strength, your ability to rise despite everything, that could be the thing that inspires them to keep going. But that only happens if you stop hiding from it. If you stop minimizing it, if you stop treating your struggles like something that disqualifies you. They don't disqualify you, they qualify you. They prove that you've been tested, they prove that you've endured, they prove that you're capable of rising no matter what life throws at you. And that's the kind of strength that can't be taught. It has to be lived. So don't look back at your past with regret. Look at it with understanding. Look at it with appreciation, because without those moments, you wouldn't be who you are right now. You wouldn't have the awareness, the resilience, the perspective that you carry today, and you wouldn't be ready for what's coming next. So take everything you've been through, the pain, the lessons, the growth, and use it. Turn it into fuel. Turn it into motivation. Turn it into a foundation that you can build something greater on. Because your struggles are not your weakness. They are your strength in disguise. And the moment you start seeing them that way, you unlock a version of yourself that's been waiting to rise all along. So tell me, are you going to keep letting your past weigh you down, or are you ready to use it as the force that pushes you forward?